Hi, I'm Bella. I built a cybersecurity platform worth $8 million. But my mom gave my title and my life's work to my cousin. They erased my name. They called me too emotional, not leadership material. Then they sold what I wrote and called it theirs. The betrayal didn't happen overnight. It came in silence, in praise that never had my name on it. And the worst part? I stayed quiet until I didn't. Because one line of code was still mine, and they had no idea what it was about to do. Ready to start Chapter 1. I got to the building earlier than usual that day. Charleston was still quiet, the kind of stillness you only get before 8 a.m., before the city's rhythm kicks in with coffee lines and conference calls. I remember walking past the security desk, nodding at the guard who'd known me for years, and heading toward the Nexia elevators like I always did. Nothing felt off, until I got to the reception on the executive floor. "Morning, Bella," the receptionist said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I think your name's not on the meeting list this quarter. Maybe a mistake." I gave her a nod and forced a grin, but inside, something dropped. I took a breath and walked down the hallway. The conference room had my name on it. Had past tense. The little metal plate I'd picked out years ago? Gone, replaced with a new one, still shiny, still smelling like glue. Maribel Rowe, Director of Innovation. At first, I thought maybe they were rotating spaces, some new policy I wasn't looped into, but I knew better. I stood there for a second too long, then walked in. The seats were filling up. I usually sat second to the left, beside the projector. That seat, taken. I took one at the end of the table. No one said a word. The meeting started on the dot. Darlene walked in. My mother, technically. The CEO. A woman with a smile sharp enough to slice skin without leaving a mark. "I'd like to open this quarter's review with some exciting news," she said, eyes scanning the table but never landing on me. "Maribel has been promoted to Director of Innovation. She'll be leading product development and strategic direction moving forward." Just like that. No acknowledgement, no thank you for the years, no mention of me at all. I looked around the table, my teammates, people I'd mentored, people who used to send me weekend texts for debugging help. They looked down. They picked at bagels. They nodded politely. Then she said it. The sentence I still hear sometimes, like static in the back of my mind. "She's your superior now. Let's all support her leadership." That was it. A few people clapped. Not many. Enough. I didn't clap. I didn't breathe. I just smiled. Hollow. Practiced. A shape my face knew how to hold when I had nothing left to show. After the meeting, I didn't rush out. I moved slowly, deliberately, like I was walking through water. I passed by desks, ones I helped fund, arrange, supply. The tech team offices I helped paint when we couldn't afford contractors. I walked to my space, except it wasn't mine anymore. A young man I didn't recognize was sitting at my desk. He looked up, startled. "Oh, sorry, I was told this was cleared." I didn't say anything. My nameplate was gone here too. Instead, I walked to the shared workroom. An old assistant, now reporting to someone else, handed me a printed agenda. "Sorry, Bella. I didn't know what to do with this." My name wasn't on it. Not on the speakers list, not on the credits, not on the leadership summary. Back at the terminal, I opened my laptop. Notifications flickered. Access denied. Project folders, revoked. Slack channels, archived. GitHub repositories, restricted. All of it, gone. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keys. For a moment, I didn't move. Then, almost robotically, I typed an email. Subject: Clarification. To Darlene Covington. Body: Would appreciate clarification on today's changes. Please advise. Bella. No response. Not that day. Not the next. I wasn't ready to believe it yet. Not fully. So I did what I always did when something didn't add up. I went looking for the source code. The real one. I opened the company's investor documentation hub. It took a few passwords, but I was still technically co-founder. They hadn't closed the doors yet. I scrolled through folders until I hit the latest funding round, Series B. My heart beat a little faster, then stopped. My name, nowhere. Founding credits, Maribel Rowe, lead visionary. I opened the metadata. The file had been edited 6 weeks ago. The digital signature authorization, mine, except I never signed it. Someone with admin rights had done it for me. I leaned back. My hands were steady. My lungs weren't. This wasn't just a demotion. This was erasure. Systematic, quiet, methodical. I closed the laptop, stood up, left the building. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I just walked. Out of the glass doors, down the steps, past the parking lot, toward the waterfront. Charleston's tide was coming in. I sat on a pier bench, shoes resting against the wood, my bag beside me. Inside that bag was a USB stick, black plastic, scratched at the edges. Contained my original codebase, the one I'd built when the company had been 2 people and a single room in Darlene's garage. I took it out, turned it between my fingers, felt its weight, though it barely weighed an ounce. "You don't fire someone like me with a sentence," I whispered to no one. "You delete me, line by line." But lines leave ghosts, especially when the original author never really left. They don't know I built the foundation, but they're about to feel the cracks. I hadn't been back to the Civic Center since the last time they let me speak. This year, I wasn't on the brochure. I wasn't listed in the event app. No speaker badge waited for me at check-in, just a standard white guest sticker with "Be Keen" handwritten in black Sharpie. The girl at the check-in table looked confused. "Are you with one of the vendors?" I didn't answer her. I just smiled and walked past like I belonged there, which once upon a time, I did. Inside the main hall, lights danced across the high ceilings. The Nexia Product Innovation Gala was in full swing. The crowd buzzed with eager faces and glossy nameplates. A giant LED backdrop flashed. Revolution through innovation. Maribel's name followed right after. She was scheduled to lead the panel I'd created 3 years ago, the same panel I'd been honored for, the same one I built from scratch. I took a seat near the back. As the room dimmed, a spotlight hit the stage. Maribel stepped into it, dressed like a professional TED Talk clone, tailored suit, modest heels, hair styled to look effortless. She launched into her keynote with practiced ease. Her slide deck? It was mine. I knew the structure, the transitions, the layout. She'd cleaned it up, changed the color palette. But the bones were mine. A graph popped up with trend data I had compiled myself. In the corner, data provided by Director Rowe. I swallowed hard. Then she quoted a line, my line, from a pitch I'd given at a small investor roundtable 2 years ago. "Security isn't just defense, it's anticipation." The audience laughed, clapped. One man leaned over to another and whispered something while nodding at the screen. I recognized his face. He'd once sat through a 3-hour meeting with me explaining that very model. They didn't know, or maybe they did. Maybe they just didn't care. I stared at the stage, at her. My hands dug into the sides of the seat until my knuckles felt stiff, but I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just sat there and watched her wrap up to thunderous applause. Later, the founders' dinner was held in a smaller ballroom. Fewer lights, but more curated elegance. Crystal glasses, engraved napkin rings. The kind of dinner where speeches weren't spontaneous. They were scheduled. Darlene, my mother, stood up with a flute of champagne in one hand. She tapped it with a spoon. "Tonight," she began, "we celebrate brilliance. We honor a woman who represents the future of this company, A woman of vision and grace. Maribel Rowe. My seat was near the edge of the room, far enough to not make it on camera, far enough to be forgotten. She continued. This company was built with many hands, and some of those have moved on. Tonight, we lift up those leading the charge. Not once did she say my name, not even the decency of past tense acknowledgement. Maribel stood up, smiled. Her hands folded like she practiced. I'm just standing on the shoulders of great leadership, she said. I almost laughed. Almost. You're standing on my code, I thought. The after-party took place on the balcony terrace, soft jazz in the background. I stood near the railing, just watching the crowd. A young guy, mid-20s, Nexia polo, badge clipped to his hip, approached me. Hey, sorry to ask, did you intern here before? You look kind of familiar. I didn't correct him. I didn't tell him I used to lead the department he worked in. I just smiled and walked toward the restroom. On the way there, I passed a corner where I heard two voices. She took it well, Maribel said. I thought she'd cause a scene. She's predictable, Darlene replied. That's her flaw. I stopped walking, for just a breath, then kept moving. In the bathroom, I washed my hands, looked at myself in the mirror, eyes tired, shoulders tight. I didn't look like a founder, not to them. Not anymore. If I don't rewrite this story, I whispered, I'll disappear in the footnotes of my own life. I left early. The rain had started, not heavy, just steady. The kind that slicks the streets and makes everything shine in the worst ways. Back at the car, I sat for a while before starting the engine. I opened my laptop. The USB drive was still tucked into the pocket of my bag. I slid it in, unlocked the encrypted partition, and began typing. I listed out names, file directories, code origins, timestamps, repos, assets. The kind of list that builds a case, not a complaint. At the bottom of the page, I typed a single line. Asset Integrity Protocol. Initiated. I leaned back, closed the lid. In the reflection of the screen, I didn't see the hurt anymore. I saw calculation. The morning after the gala, I got to the office just after 8. It was cloudy out. Charleston kind of cloudy, where the air feels like it's been holding something back. I walked in through the side entrance like always. Security didn't stop me, not because they knew better, but because they didn't see me anymore. The receptionist gave me that look, the kind people give when they're not sure if you're still part of something. She smiled, too wide, said nothing else. I tried my key card. The scanner blinked red. I tried again, red. It finally worked, but only after I swiped it at a different access point. Instead of leading me to my floor, it redirected me to a smaller workspace near operations, an overflow zone they usually used for interns and temporary contractors. On the wall where my nameplate used to hang, a new one read, Operations Overflow Desk 3. I sat down, didn't speak, didn't react. I just opened my laptop. No files, no links, no access. I pulled out a pen and notebook and started writing, not to fix anything, but to document everything. Every change, every lockout, every silence. When I finally opened Nexia's website, I already knew what I'd find. But knowing doesn't always soften the blow. The leadership page? Gone. My name, my photo, my title, wiped clean. The About section now read, founded by Darlene Covington and expanded under the strategic brilliance of Maribel Rowe. They rewrote history. I didn't even get an asterisk. Old press releases that once highlighted my speaking events, my patents, my quotes, had been quietly replaced or reattributed. They kept the stories but gave the credit to someone else. This wasn't an accident. This had been building for months. Quiet erasures, one line at a time. I whispered to myself. I wasn't removed. I was rewritten. I had one job left that day, to watch the system eat itself. The engineering team had its weekly stand-up meeting. I walked in silently, no chair with my name on it, no expectation that I'd contribute. A junior engineer stood up, introduced himself. I'm here to support Maribel's technical vision. Someone coughed. No one laughed. I offered one suggestion, minor optimization, nothing dramatic. The lead looked at me with polite discomfort and said, I think this is something Maribel will want to decide. I nodded once, then stayed silent. As people filed out, an intern approached me quietly. Couldn't have been older than 23. Hey, I heard you used to work here. They told us not to reference you as a founder. Said it would confuse the chain of command. I smiled, walked out. My fists didn't shake. My voice didn't rise. But inside, something had broken off and refused to reattach. Back at my new desk, I plugged in a portable drive. Encrypted. Hidden. I scrolled through old folders, backups of the original Nexia files. One by one, I opened screenshots, saved team photos, scanned emails from Darlene when we were still in the garage. Back then, she used to write things like, "You're the brain behind the engine." I didn't know those words would be the first draft of a lie. There was a photo of our original whiteboard, my quote still scribbled in black marker. We code futures here. I saw that same quote in a recent interview with Maribel. She didn't mention it was mine. The journalist wrote, a line that Maribel keeps close to her heart. I shut the laptop. It wasn't rage. It was grief. Grief for a version of me that once believed in family. Grief for what I thought we were building together. Later that afternoon, I walked down to the employee lounge. Coffee station on one end, couches no one sat on unless the office was empty. Maribel was on a Zoom call, smiling, laughing, charming, probably spinning another story she didn't write. I watched for a minute, then turned away. They made me a ghost, I whispered, but ghosts leave traces. I went back to my station, closed the browser tabs, opened my terminal. There it was, my script, Asset Integrity Protocol, Phase 2. I typed 3 lines, locked the screen, and walked out. The email hit my inbox at 9:03 a.m., sharp. Subject line, thanks for the incredible deployment. Sender. One of Nexia's oldest clients, a healthcare firm I'd personally onboarded, configured, and supported. I opened the message. Every word of it praised Maribel for leading the successful launch of our latest security protocol. They went on about the simplicity of the interface, the accuracy of the predictive scan tool, and how impressed their board had been by her clear communication and technical expertise. I didn't have to read past the first 2 sentences to know they were describing my code. I called the client's project manager immediately. I didn't yell, I didn't accuse, I just asked, and the voice on the other end? Confused. Oh, I thought you were part of the background tech team. I didn't realize. Wait, weren't you? Something with early product dev? Something. Early. Background. I ended the call politely, thanked them for their continued trust, and hung up. My hands stayed still, but my throat tightened. Not from shock. That had passed. What was left now was something denser, heavier. It wasn't just my name missing. They'd erased the shape of me, the outline, even the shadow. By noon, I was combing through Nexia's current PR campaigns. They were running a massive content push across LinkedIn and industry blogs, spotlight pieces, infographics, sound bites, and in one of the campaign images, at the bottom right, there it was. Zero-day resistance begins with zero ego. Maribel Rowe, Director of Innovation. That line wasn't hers. It came from a section of my private research journal, unpublished, undocumented, stored in a shared RD drive. I opened another tab, found a local feature piece in Charleston Business Weekly. There was Darlene, pictured on a panel next to Maribel, mid-laugh. She was quoted saying, "Maribel is one of those rare minds, introspective, quiet, and quietly brilliant." That phrasing, quiet genius, it was mine. I'd used it 2 years ago during a company awards ceremony describing our junior team. I remembered the speech word for word. I wrote it myself. Darlene had teared up at the time. Now she recycled it like it was nothing. I didn't cry. I took screenshots, labeled each one, sent them to my encrypted legal folder. Subject, misattribution file, 01. And then I opened Spotify, because I needed noise. I needed anything but silence. Later that evening, sitting in my apartment, I played a podcast while organizing documents. The episode? Next Gen Women in Tech. Darlene was the featured guest. She didn't mention me by name. Instead, she talked about a former team member who struggled with boundaries, who confused technical contribution with leadership potential. She used the phrase difficult to manage, but brilliant in bursts. Said, "We all learn from working with intense personalities, especially those who feel entitled to ownership over shared innovation." Midway through the episode, Maribel joined. The host praised her for guiding Nexia through a major platform pivot. Maribel deflected modestly, said she couldn't have done it without a solid foundation laid by strong thinkers. No names, no specifics. I sat in my living room, wrapped in a blanket, listening to them shape a version of the truth I didn't recognize. They were careful. They were calculated. And everyone watching from the outside, they were clapping. The next morning, the comments started. On the podcast's page, under the episode, "Anyone know who they're talking about?" Pretty clear someone got fired and didn't take it well. One of those bitter coders, I bet. Maribel posted a quote to her LinkedIn. "Sometimes you're misunderstood because you're ahead of your time. Trust the silence." Over 10,000 likes. I didn't respond. I didn't share. I opened a spreadsheet, named it Proof Matrix, Truth versus PR. One column, claims. Next column, sources. Final column, screenshots. I didn't stop at quotes. I documented line-by-line changes between my presentations and the ones Maribel had given in the last year. I mapped timestamps, file paths, metadata. I didn't post a thing, but I was building something, quietly. That night, I pulled out an old hard drive and watched recordings from my training sessions, ones I'd held with staff, engineers, interns. One clip had me explaining predictive threat modeling. 3 days ago, I'd heard Maribel say the same explanation, same rhythm, same metaphor, on a podcast interview. Verbatim. I paused the clip, leaned back, closed my eyes. They plagiarized my personality, packaged it, sold it, and put a bow on it that wasn't mine. I got up, walked to the closet, reached for the top shelf, and pulled down the old lockbox. Inside, nestled between backup drives and archived footage, was a sealed folder. On the tab, written in marker, "Launch Protocol, Emergency Use Only." I carried it to the desk, laid it beside the laptop, whispered to myself, "Let them shine. I'll pull the curtain." I was halfway through my coffee when I noticed something wrong in the system logs. It wasn't glaring, just a line out of place, time-stamped access to a protected module that I had coded from scratch. The logs showed someone had entered, reviewed, and extracted segments of my work. The label on the session ID? Internal, cleared, authorized. I didn't panic. I pulled up the timestamp, checked the Git trail, traced it to the latest build that Nexia had just demoed to a new corporate client. I opened their public release notes. There it was. Security feature, predictive shield, real-time patch escalation. My language, my logic, but not my name. The credit line? Engineered by Maribel Rowe. I moved to the legal dashboard. The licensing files showed a new product license had been generated, under my credentials, digitally signed, except it wasn't my signature. I stared at it for a long while. The hash matched my key. The encryption trail, clean, admin approved. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. This wasn't oversight. It was theft. Worse, planned theft, disguised as evolution. I picked up the phone and called a contact at the affiliate company that had just rolled out the new software. I didn't introduce myself, just asked to speak to their CTO. He answered in a clipped voice, like he'd been on edge all week. I asked, "The system you licensed last month, you were told it was built in-house?" There was a pause. Maribel Rowe. We were told she authored the framework and that the original contributor had exited before IP rights matured. Exited, I repeated. My voice didn't shake. I see. Thank you. He hesitated. Wait, who is this? I hung up. I'd heard enough. I closed the laptop slowly, sat still for a full minute. No music, no TV. Just silence that clung to the edges of the room. They hadn't just stolen my work, they sold it, and I'd helped them do it by saying nothing for too long. That afternoon, I drove to my mother's house. I didn't call ahead. I didn't plan what to say. I just parked out front, walked up the steps, and knocked. She opened the door like she was expecting someone else. When she saw me, her mouth pulled tight. 5 minutes, I said. She nodded once and stepped aside. We sat in her living room, same as always. Neutral colors, polished floors. That vase she kept on the mantel, one I'd bought her for a birthday she never thanked me for. I pulled up the files on my tablet, showed her the forged license, the trail of data, the code, the timestamps. She scrolled without a word. After a while, she handed it back. You're brilliant, Bella, she said calmly. But sometimes, the best leaders are the ones who know when to step back. I stared at her. Why her? I asked. Why Maribel, not me? She folded her hands in her lap. Because she listens. Because she obeys. You always needed to be right. There it was. No sugarcoat. No soft landing. Not because Maribel was better. Not because I failed. Just because she bowed lower. I didn't say another word. I stood up, left the tea untouched, walked out without looking back. I passed the sidewalk where I once walked her home after Dad's funeral, when her legs were too tired and her eyes too red to see the curb. I remembered sitting on her couch later that night, writing code while she slept in the next room, trying to build something that might pull us both into the light. Turns out, loyalty isn't love. It's leverage. I don't know what I expected walking into that house. Maybe not forgiveness, but a flicker of truth. Something honest. What I got instead was confirmation. She never chose me. I got back home, dropped my bag, and walked straight to my office. Turned on the monitor, opened the encrypted drive. I added a new entry to the integrity protocol, label, false ownership events. Attached the forged signature, the emails, the code diff. I backed it all up to 3 separate locations. Then I leaned back in the chair, stared at the ceiling. They gave her a stage because she bowed, I muttered. I built it because I stood. The laptop pinged. New message. No sender ID. Subject. You don't know the half of it. The email came on a Tuesday. Not from Darlene, not from Maribel. Just a bland address, copied to a long list. The subject line read, Strategic Planning Session, Nexia HQ, 10 a.m. I wasn't addressed directly, just included. That told me everything. I thought about deleting it, but then I looked at the timestamp and saw who else had been CC'd. All top level, all decision makers. No room for interpretation. They wanted me to show up, but not as an equal. I took my time getting ready that morning, wore the same charcoal gray blazer I had on when I pitched our Series A funding 3 years back. That pitch made them believers, built Nexia's credibility, built everything else too. As I zipped my bag, I slipped in the USB, the same one with the full source trail. I checked twice that the integrity protocol files were up to date. Labeled, archived, ready. I said nothing to anyone. If they wanted theater, I'd give them an audience. The conference room looked cleaner than usual, like someone had staged it. A pitcher of water sat in the center of the table. New pens, fresh notepads. Darlene walked in, said good morning like she hadn't spent the past 6 months orchestrating my removal. Her eyes didn't land on me. Maribel followed, smiling faintly, confident, comfortable. The first slide came up. Today we'll review proposed restructuring efforts to streamline innovation and vertical alignment. Her words, but it was my structure. I drafted a similar slide months ago in a brainstorming deck. She'd just cleaned it up, pitched it like gospel. And there it was, chart after chart. Org trees, reporting flow, departmental pivots. My name? Gone. In the proposed model, the Security RD division, the one I built, now fell under Operations Strategy, headed by Maribel. At the bottom of the slide, in small gray text, realignment recommended to reflect evolving vision. A man in a cheap suit I didn't recognize stepped forward. Legal counsel. He handed out folders. Inside, termination terms, severance packet, pre-printed. He didn't look at me when he said, "Effective today, your role is no longer aligned with Nexia's direction." A security guard I knew from the first days of our lease stood by the door. He looked more uncomfortable than I did. I didn't flinch, didn't argue, didn't sign a damn thing. I stood, reached for my old laptop, the one with the cracked hinge and worn keyboard. They had left it on the side table, like a consolation prize. I tucked it under my arm and walked out. No one spoke. A junior intern tried to say goodbye, but someone behind her shot a glance that made her swallow the words. I didn't slow down. They expected rage, I thought. What they'll get is precision. In the elevator, I exhaled for the first time in 10 minutes. Back at my apartment, I didn't take off the blazer. I opened the laptop. Entered the admin terminal. Typed slow. No music, no noise. Just the click of each letter like a hammer against glass. Asset Integrity Protocol. Phase 3. Activate. Within seconds, the script began to cascade. It flagged every core system Nexia relied on. Authentication gateways, real-time scanning logic, cloud encryption layers. Each one embedded with my authorship keys. Each one requiring my digital certificate to remain operational. Not stolen. Not damaged. Just returned. And now, unusable without me. I didn't touch anything else. Didn't call. Didn't post. I trusted what I built. I made coffee. Sat on the balcony. Let the wind run through me. Charleston glowed in the distance. Quiet. Still. Then my phone buzzed. Nexia server message. Critical system error. License verification failed. I smiled. Just a little. Let's see if Maribel can debug that. I stood to go refill my mug when the doorbell rang. Not delivery. No expected visitor. I glanced at the camera feed. And there she was. Darlene. By the time I opened my eyes, my phone had already buzzed out its battery. I plugged it in, made coffee, and waited. 47 unread emails, 21 missed calls. All with one thing in common, Nexia's name in the subject line. I turned on the TV. Every news ticker said the same thing in slightly different fonts. Platform disruption at Nexia sparks questions over licensing. Nexia faces internal meltdown after sudden system outage. Founder's signature missing or deliberately removed. Blog headlines were worse. One post caught my eye. Did Nexia just lose its founder's protection? I didn't flinch, didn't blink. This was always going to happen. I just didn't expect it to move this fast. I took another sip from my mug, leaned back in the chair, and said aloud to no one, "When the machine breaks, the silence ends." And I never needed a microphone, just failure. Mid-morning, a headline broke that hit harder than the rest. One of Nexia's key healthcare partners had pulled out, citing unresolved concerns over software IP ownership. Their legal team announced immediate withdrawal from all collaborative contracts, not paused, not reviewed, terminated. Nexia's stock dropped 13% by noon. Every financial outlet ran some version of the same photo. Maribel standing at a podium, smiling, and next to her, a split screen of a demo I had given 2 years prior, the one now watermarked with my name, not Nexia's, mine. For the first time, people were connecting the dots. Maribel released a statement that afternoon, slick, impersonal, and completely void of accountability. These delays are due to legacy architecture challenges. We are working diligently to align our systems with current security frameworks. No mention of me, no apology, just jargon and lies. I didn't reply publicly, didn't do interviews. I opened my private Git repo, uploaded the original product timeline, commit logs, and a scanned image of the handwritten flowchart I'd scribbled on the back of a pizza box in the early days. Everything time-stamped, everything real. Rhonda Mellis from Tech Insider messaged again, asking for a quote. I didn't give her one. That night, the article went live. The Woman They Forgot, How Bella Was Erased from Nexia's Story. It was accurate, brutally so. Screenshots of my code, internal Slack threads, the original team photo with me dead center, a line from an old internal memo. Security infrastructure designed and maintained by Bella Keane. Darlene and Maribel both declined to comment. The article didn't need them. That silence said more than a press release ever could. My phone didn't stop buzzing. Some old colleagues messaged to say they were sorry. Others wrote vague texts like, "Didn't know what to say back then," or, "We were told you stepped down voluntarily." I didn't answer. I didn't have the energy to reintroduce myself to people who watched me disappear and said nothing. But I saved every message, not out of spite, out of habit, out of principle. That week, Nexia's PR team launched their counterattack. Maribel filmed a high-production video, softly lit, warm tone, carefully rehearsed pauses. "This company was built by collaboration," she said. "Innovation is never one person. It's always a team." She never said my name, but she looked directly into the camera and said, "Sometimes stories get simplified. It's our job to keep the focus forward, not backward." Comments started slow, then they picked up speed. One linked to an archived conference video, me explaining predictive analysis in real time. Another showed my name etched into an early product prototype. Then came the testimonials. Anonymous, but raw. Worked with Bella, saw how she was cut out. She was the real deal. They sidelined her once it got profitable. She built that back end herself. I watched it. I didn't comment, I didn't share, but I saved it all. History doesn't belong to the loudest, it belongs to the most recorded. The last headline I saw that night was on a small forum. No blue check, no press badge, just a user with a timestamp and the truth. She built it, they branded it. That one stayed open on my screen while I made tea. I stared at it a long time. Then a new email pinged into my inbox. Subject: It's not over. Watch your back. I didn't panic. Didn't delete it. I stared at the message, not with fear, but with certainty. They still think I'm playing defense. I didn't move right away when the bell rang. I just stared at the feed on my phone. Darlene, standing there like she had somewhere to be, like this wasn't personal. I opened the door without a word. She didn't wait for an invitation, just stepped inside, glancing around like she expected the place to look more broken. 5 minutes, she said. Noted. She sat down at the edge of the couch, upright, hands folded neatly in her lap. I'm not here as your mother, she said. I'm here representing Nexia. Of course she was. We'd like to resolve this quietly, she continued. If you help correct the narrative, we're prepared to restore your name publicly. I didn't smile. I didn't laugh. I just said, no. You'd rather destroy what you helped build? No, I said. I'd rather not be used as a cleanup crew for someone else's mess. She didn't argue. She stood, walked to the balcony without asking, pulled out her phone. I stayed where I was. The speaker in the corner of the room lit up. I'd forgotten it was connected. She didn't notice. Of course she said no, Darlene said into the phone. She's just playing victim. We gave her everything. She chose to burn it. Then she paused. Doesn't matter. We'll pivot. Maribel can spin the board. Bella's done. She ended the call, came back in, gave me a quick nod, and walked out. I waited until the door shut. Then I asked the speaker to play the recording back. Every word, clear as crystal. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I sat down and hit save. I wasn't their mistake. I was their scapegoat. That night, I got a call from a number I hadn't seen in years. Elise Gonzalez. She'd been my lead developer once. Left under strange circumstances. Never said why. I've got something, she said. 10 minutes later, a file appeared in my inbox. Inside, original commits, email chains, early design files, all signed off by Darlene, all time-stamped. I kept it all, Elise said on the phone. Didn't know when I'd need it, but I saw what they did to you, and I'm done being quiet. Elise, this could come back on you. I'm fine with that, she said. You taught me to fight for what matters. Let me return the favor. I didn't argue. The next morning, I uploaded the recording from my speaker to a secure media Dropbox. Elise submitted her affidavit directly to Rhonda Mellis at Tech Insider. Maribel scheduled a live stream that afternoon, tried to stay composed, but you could see it, the tremble behind her smile. She called it a moment of realignment, blamed confusion over authorship timelines, claimed she welcomed clarification. Darlene, silent. But Slack leaks from inside Nexia started circulating. Leadership panicked. Legal scrambled. A staff memo warned employees not to speak publicly. The clip of Darlene's call spread fast. Even people who didn't know who I was shared it. She's just playing victim, they quoted, over and over. But this time, people weren't buying it. In group chats, on forums, in boardrooms, people weren't just disappointed. They were furious. I didn't post anything, didn't take interviews, didn't answer the phone. I sat in the same chair I used to code from, the same spot where I built Nexia's first firewall module, USB drive on the desk, legal envelope beside it. I don't need revenge, I whispered. I just needed them to stop pretending. I opened my inbox, typed one line to my attorney. Finalize the IP reassignment. No further contact needed. Right as I clicked send, a notification popped up. Maribel was live. Title, The Truth They Won't Tell You. I clicked on the live stream without sound, just watched her face for a few seconds. Maribel, speaking slowly, evenly, hands folded, eyes calm but calculating. The title of her broadcast blinked in bold white letters. The Truth They Won't Tell You. Her version of the truth was polished, measured. She talked about teamwork, about how no innovation came from one person alone. She spoke of internal sabotage and disruptions rooted in unresolved grievances. She never used my name. The comments rolled in faster than the speech could keep up. Where's Bella? Did you steal her code or not? Is this your definition of leadership? I didn't stay for the end. I closed the browser. Maribel was trying to salvage a ship I'd already walked off. Let her rearrange the chairs. I didn't want a microphone. I didn't need their stage. I opened my webcam and hit record. No lights, no script, just me, sitting at the desk where it all began. I'm not here to relitigate anything, I started. I'm not here to call out names or demand credit. I looked straight into the lens. I built something. I lost it. I survived that. What came after wasn't justice, it was clarity. I talked about what it meant to create something with your name, your hands, and then watch someone else fold it up, tie a ribbon around it, and put their signature on the front. I said, some families build companies in cages at the same time. I didn't rage, I didn't accuse. I just told the truth. And when I finished, I ended with one sentence. I didn't fight to be seen. I fought to stop pretending I wasn't there. Then I uploaded it, quietly. No hashtags, no tags. Just posted it on my old blog, dormant for years. By the next morning, it had been shared across more than just tech sites, therapists, family trauma forums, women in STEM pages, even some church newsletters. Apparently, truth has reach. By the weekend, I'd begun packing. I boxed up what I wanted, recycled the rest, didn't keep the awards, didn't keep the branded mugs or the etched plaques. But one thing stopped me, a sticky note, curled at the edges, tucked inside an old folder. Keep building, son. One day they'll see. Mom. I stared at it, sat with it, then turned it over. On the back, I wrote, they did, you didn't. I slid it into an envelope and left it at the mailbox. Addressed to Darlene. No note, no explanation. I didn't need one. Forgiveness doesn't require reunion, just release. 2 weeks later, I moved to Asheville. Small city, slower rhythm, less press, more trees. I rented a desk in a co-working space tucked between a coffee shop and a yoga studio. Started mentoring again. Quietly. Online. I used an alias. Nobody needed to know who I was. I built a cybersecurity framework for seniors and single moms. Something free, simple, no sign-up required. I didn't brand it, didn't put a logo on it. I just sent it out. Sometimes your best revenge is choosing peace when chaos invites you to dance. A few months passed. One Saturday, I walked through a local tech fair, small booths, homemade posters, card tables. I stopped in front of a girl, no older than 20, presenting a project labeled, Built from Scratch, Protected by Pride. That phrase, she couldn't have known it came from a forgotten interview I once gave in a hotel hallway after a panel. I never wrote it down. It just came out. She said it like it was hers, and that was okay. I smiled, didn't interrupt, didn't correct, just walked on. You don't always get your name back, but you take your power when you stop needing it there.